Greetings, and welcome to another Lessons with Odin. This episode, I will be showing you how to make these adorable pendants. I kind of went apeshit. You may have seen these in my little creation update thing. I made one for a gift, hence why I only have 3 of them, because I sent one off, because it was a gift. And I was like, I really like some of these, so what color combination do I want to make for myself? And of course I couldn't decide just one, so I made 3. And I'm gonna make another one for you guys today too. So, just a very simple right angle weave bezel with some accents and such, and a little dangly drop thing. Materials, you will want to know what we need to make. So yes, we're going to work on those. It's fairly quick, good for throwing gifts together, and it's even good as a base if you want to do something more exciting with it than what I've done. For this project, you will need an 18 by 25 cabochon. I'm going to be using one of my resin cabochons that I have created because I have an ample supply of them. You can obviously use whatever 18 by 25 cabochon you would like, but I do have some of my own that I have created, and if you would like a custom one made for yourself, be sure to check out my Etsy page, because I not only have the ones for this project, but I have larger ones as well, which are also just as pretty for all your project needs. But yes, so 18 by 25 is what you will be needing. You will need size 11 delicas, size 11 seed beads, size 15 seed beads, 13 3mm beads in whatever shape you would like. I used bicones. I've also used fire polish rounds. In these examples, I'm going to do pearls today because I feel like it. Some sort of dangly doodad thing. I have a small glass teardrop that I'm going to use. I've used a pear-shaped pearl in this example here. I have a weird star-shaped crystal in this example, and a spike bead in this example. Use whatever you like. And, of course, your needle and thread. Let us get started. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to do the initial steps out of 11-0 round seed beads, because in terms of right angle weave, delicas really don't like to sit nicely in place, and I found that round seed beads do. So we're going to start off with that. And with that, we're going to add on 4 size 11 seed beads. These will be your delicas, but if you'd like to practice with rounds just so you get the initial shape, feel free to do so. I'm going to pass back through once more. Then I'm going to tie an overhand knot with my working thread and my tail, just so that we get everything secured into a loop. And that is what our initial loop will look like after the knot. I'm just going to pass my needle through one of these beads just to make it stay where I want it to be. Then I'm going to add 3 more size 11 seed beads and pass back through that same bead so that we form another stitch next to it. Like that. So the base of our bezel is basically a 2-column right angle weave strip, and we will be constantly working with the top 2 beads from each row. So for now, I'm going to set up by passing through one of the top beads. I'm going to add 3 size 11 seed beads and pass back through that same bead where we started from. Now I need to move over to complete this stitch on this side, so I'm going to take my thread and move up the side, through the top one, down the opposite side, and through the top hole of the first stitch. Then I'm going to add 2 size 11 seed beads and pass through the bead in the center. This bead is basically what's going to be shared between the 2 sides, so that we end up with our grid of plus signs for a start. Now I'm going to move my thread all the way up to the top, like so, and then I'm ready to add another row. So I've got 3 size 11 seed beads. I'm going to pass through the same hole from the top again, and now we have the start of our next row. Now I'm going to set up to add the next stitch, so all I'm going to do is pass up through 1, and this is the shared bead in the center. So from here, I've got 2 size 11 seed beads, and I'm going to pass through the top hole of the right column, like so, then move up so that we've completed our next stitch. And in order to set up for the next stitch, we're going to pass through to the next top hole. Now we're ready to add our next column. Going back and forth from right to left, then up, left to right, and we're going to keep doing that until we have 25 stitches total. Now the easiest way to count that is to count the side beads on our right angle weave. I have 1, 2, 3, therefore we've made 3 complete rows, and we want a total of 25 before we continue our bezel. Now this is a simple small selection of right angle weave in flat stitches, so if you've done this before, you'll probably have a good time with this. If you haven't done and need a little bit more help, I have a couple of other tutorials where I've done right angle weave bezels before, and I will leave one over here in the little eye or in the description below, and there's a playlist of right angle weave lessons with Odin. So here I have my completed strip of 25 stitches. As you can kind of see, I've made it out of delicas, and the little plus signs are a little hard to distinguish, but if you are very familiar with right angle weave, that shouldn't bother you. Or feel free to do your entire bezel out of rounds instead of delicas. So now I'm going to work on joining the two sides of the bezel together. So all I'm going to do is fold it in half. My thread is currently coming out of the left side of the leftmost column, so what I'm going to do is add one more delica and pass through the left side of the opposite corner. Then I've added on one more delica bead, and I'm going to pass through the right side of the first bead that we started from. And that completes one circle. So I'm going to move around so I can complete the other circle. So I'm going to move down, down, to the right, up, and finally to the right. I'm going to add my last delica bead and then pass through the right side of the opposite bead to join the gap. Then I'm going to go around that circle of 4 again just to secure everything in place. Then we will have a seamless join for the rest of the bezel. I'm going to move my way out to one of the outside beads on the side so that I can continue and start closing off my bezel. We're going to start off working with the front of the bezel, and all we're going to do is a 2-row peyote stitch with size 15 seed beads. So I've added one size 15 seed bead, and I'm going to pass through to the next bead on the round so that we start to cinch it together. Once more, add on one size 15 seed bead and pass to the next bead on the round. Gonna repeat that all the way around until we've completed the entire set. And that is what we should end up with. Next, we're gonna step up by passing through the next size 15 on our round so that we can add our next row. And doing our next row is pretty much the same thing. I'm just gonna add one size 15 seed bead and pass through the next size 15 seed bead so that it sticks up above in between the two size 15s. Repeat that all the way around until you've finished the set. And that is what we should end up with. Now I'm going to move on to the other side and work my way to the other delica beads that are sticking out. So, I'm just going to move down and around using the right angle weave to help me, and finally end up through the opposite edge. And we're going to do essentially the same thing, except this time I'm adding on a size 11 seed bead. If you're already using the size 11 round seed beads, you can feel free to do the same thing and use the same color, or use another color, whatever you feel like doing. So yes, I'm going to take one of those, do the same thing, move over to the next delica bead on our round, and repeat that all the way around until we've completed the ring. And that is what you should end up with. Next, you're going to step up again by passing through the next size 11 seed beads so that you end up at the top row. Then you're going to take your cabochon and put it color side down or front, or however, whatever the front is, you're going to put it down because that's the front. This is the back. You're going to add two size 15 rows on top of this. So first off, we're going to add size 15, pass to the next size 11 on the round, Then complete that all the way around. Then we step up by passing through to the next size 15 so that we can begin another row, and finally add one more size 15 row using peyote stitch. So we add one size 15 and pass to the next size 15 and do that all the way around till we finish the set. So that our back ends up like that. Now we're going to work on the detailings. So we're going to work with the center delicacy in the right angle weave, the one that goes in this direction, the hole in this direction. You see we have 1, 2, 3 beads. We're going to work with the center beads that have the holes going around horizontally. So I'm going to make my way over there using the previous beads around the bezel. And that is where I want to be. Like so, my thread is coming out of this center bead here. I'm going to then add one size 15, one 3mm bead, one size 15 from the bead I am coming out of. I'm going to go along the path of the other beads, but I'm going to skip this one and move to the next one. So, threads coming from this bead, I'm going to skip this bead and move through the next one over. So we end up with something like that. Once more, I'm going to add one size 15, one 3mm bead, one size 15. I'm going to skip over my next bead and pass through the next one. Keep going all the way around until you've neared the center at the top. Okay, so this is what I have ended up with so far. Now, I have a set of delicate beads that is right at the center point of one of the sides, and this is where I'm going to hang my bail. Pro tip though, if you don't have one that is right here, you can kind of ratchet your bezel around until that tip moves. Because the bezel isn't too tight, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room, so you're able to move it around a little bit. I want to end up over here in these delicate beads, so I'm going to move one bead up and one bead over, and this is where I'm at in the center. And I'm going to add a herringbone bail. I'm just going to quickly whiz through it because I've done something exactly the same in my talisman pendant, which if you haven't seen, you should probably go check that out. I will leave links in places like over here. Anyway, so I've got two size 15 seed beads. I'm going to pass through that same delicate bead so that we form a picot on top. I'm going to flatten it out, and this is going to be the base of our herringbone stitch. So then I'm going to pass up through one of the sides, add on two more size 15 seed beads, and pass down through the left bead. Push those sides down. I'm going to then move up two beads on the right column, add on two more size 15 seed beads, pass just through the topmost bead on the left. Then pass up the top two most beads on the right, and keep going in that manner until we have about an inch or an inch and a half, something that's long enough for us to bend over the front so that we can turn it into a bail. And we end up with a band just like that. Then I'm going to flip it forward, and my thread is coming from the left side, so I'm going to pass through. You can see how our bail is currently anchored onto this bead. We want to anchor it to this bead down here. So I'm going to take my needle and pass through the left side of the bead in front, pull tight so that it curls in, then pass up through some beads on the right side to anchor it in place. Then you're going to reinforce that by passing down and around those beads a couple of times before moving back on to finish the rest of your 3mm embellishment. Now you'll notice that due to my thread position, I also need to change directions, so I'm just going to continue on the path until I get to the bead that I want to go to. So I move down towards the front, then up a bead, and finally, this is the bead I want to be at. Then I can continue adding my size 15, my 3mm, my size 15, skipping a bead, and moving over to the next. And then I add on my final piece. Then we're going to want to reinforce our pearls just by passing through the beads once more. So I'm currently coming out of a delica bead here. I'm just going to pass up through the 15, through the 3mm, down the 15, down a delica, and back up and down until I've reached the midway point here. I'm going to then stop at a size 15 seed bead towards the center. You see where my bail is? You see I have 2 3mm beads on each side of the center point here. Now you can kind of see how there are different ways to do this depending on the orientation of the whole of your focal piece. I'm going to thread on 2 size 15s, 1 3mm bead, 3 size 15s, my drop focal, and 3 more size 15s. Then I'm going to pass that down, so it looks like that. I'm going to pass back up through the 3mm bead, so that it starts my drop. Then I'm going to add 2 size 15 seed beads and pass through the next size 15 and purl set on the round. We pull tight and we end up with something like this. Now in order to reinforce it, you can either go all the way around again to make sure the pearls are secured, or you can travel through the beads down here and over again in order to cinch this part tight. Either way, do what you want to do in order to reinforce the rest of the piece, and then end your threads. And then you should have your finished pendant. Woo! I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to check out my others in my playlists in various locations on my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this tutorial, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more nonsense from me and the occasional jewelry instruction thing. If you want more lessons, feel free to check out my skillshare classes as well, and if you want to check out my Resin Cabochons, there will be links to that as well. So that'll do it from me. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to leave me a comment down below, and I will see you next time.